Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Stacy, and tonight we're diving headfirst into the weird, wonderful, and sometimes just plain bizarre world of paranormal investigation. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably seen ghost hunters on TV waving around all sorts of blinking gadgets, talking to static, and generally looking very serious. But have you ever stopped to wonder where all this stuff comes from? And more importantly, does any of it actually work? Or is it just a fancy way to look busy while you're standing in a spooky, dark room waiting for a ghost to, I don't know, pay its back taxes? Tonight, we're going on a little historical field trip. We're going to explore some of the strangest and most unusual tools ever used to hunt for ghosts, ghouls, and all things that go bump in the night. We'll be looking at everything from ancient divination tools that wouldn't look out of place in a wizard's garage sale to the kind of high-tech gear that would make even the most skeptical person raise an eyebrow. All right, let's start with a classic. A true vintage piece of paranormal tech, dowsing rods. Before we had fancy EMF meters that sound like a dying smoke detector, we had sticks. Specifically, two L-shaped metal rods, or sometimes just a forked Y-shaped stick. The idea is simple. You hold these things loosely in your hands, walk around a supposedly haunted location, and wait for them to cross or move on their own. When they do, congratulations. You've either found water, a lost treasure, or, in our case, a spectral buddy trying to say hello. It sounds a little out there, I know. Like something a medieval farmer would use to find a good spot for a well, which, to be fair, is exactly where this all started. Dowsing, or water witching, has been around for centuries, with depictions of it found in ancient Egyptian and Chinese art. It was a practical tool for finding underground water sources. But somewhere along the line, someone thought, hey, if this can find hidden water, maybe it can find hidden ghosts? The theory, and I'm using that term very loosely here, is that spirits give off a certain kind of energy. This energy, invisible to us mere mortals, supposedly interacts with the rods, causing them to move. It's all based on the ideomotor effect, which is a fancy way of saying your own subconscious muscle movements are probably doing all the work. Your brain knows you want the rods to cross, so your hands make it happen without you even realizing it. But here's the thing. Despite the science saying it's probably just you, dowsing rods remain incredibly popular in the ghost hunting community. A fun fact for you, during the Vietnam War, some U.S. Marines reportedly used dowsing rods to try and locate enemy tunnels and landmines. The results were, as you might expect, not great. Despite their limitations, there's something undeniably cool about the visual. Picture it. You're in a creepy, abandoned asylum, the only light is from your flashlight, and these two metal rods slowly, deliberately cross in front of you. Even if it's just your own hands doing it, that's a prime-time spooky moment right there. Next up on our tour of peculiar paranormal gadgets is the pendulum. If dowsing rods are the rustic farm tool of ghost hunting, the pendulum is its slightly more sophisticated, jewelry-wearing cousin. It's essentially just a weight, often a crystal or a pointed metal bob, suspended from a string or chain. The principle is pretty similar to dowsing. You hold it still, ask a yes or no question, and the direction it swings supposedly gives you the answer. A circle for yes, back and forth for no, or whatever system you and the spirits agree on beforehand. The use of pendulums for divination or scrying goes way back. We're talking ancient Rome and Greece, where mystics would dangle a ring over a bowl of water and interpret the ripples or the letters it pointed to. It's a practice that's ebbed and flowed in popularity over the centuries, but it really had a major moment during the spiritualism craze of the Victorian era. Seances were all the rage, and a pendulum was a much more portable and discreet way to contact Uncle Ebenezer than lugging a whole tipping table around. But the lore around pendulums is where it gets really fun. People get very specific about it. You have to cleanse your pendulum, often by leaving it in moonlight or burying it in salt to clear it of previous energies. Some believe that different crystals have different properties. You'd use a rose quartz pendulum for questions about love and an amethyst for spiritual guidance. It's a whole system, a complex ritual that makes the process feel more legitimate and powerful. Here's a quirky historical anecdote for you. In the 17th century, a French nobleman named Jacques-Aimar Vernet became famous as a pendulum detective. He claimed he could use his pendulum to track down criminals. In modern ghost hunting, pendulums are often used for more direct communication. Investigators will hold them over a floor plan of a building to locate hotspots of activity, or use them with an alphabet board to spell out messages, kind of like a handheld Ouija board. It's seen as a gentler, less intimidating method of communication. You're not demanding answers from a spirit box, you're politely inviting a response. It's the Canadian approach to ghost hunting. Of course, the whole thing is ripe for a bit of skepticism. Is the spirit of a long-dead pirate really swinging this little crystal? Or did I just have too much coffee and my hand is shaking? The answer is almost certainly the coffee. Ah, the Ouija board. No list of strange paranormal tools would be complete without this one. It's the moody teenager of the ghost hunting world. Controversial, widely misunderstood, and blamed for, well, just about everything. Marketed by Hasbro as a harmless parlor game, it has somehow become one of the most feared objects in paranormal lore. So, how did a piece of cardboard with letters on it get such a terrifying reputation? Well, it's a long and weird story. First, let's get the name right. It's pronounced Ouija, not Ouija. The name itself is supposedly a combination of the French and German words for yes, oui, and ja. The board's patent was filed in 1890 by a businessman named Elijah Bond, who marketed it as a talking board, a mystical oracle that could answer questions about the past, present, and future. It was an instant hit, perfectly tapping into the Victorian obsession with spiritualism and communicating with the dead. The controversy started almost immediately. Religious groups condemned it as a tool of the devil, a gateway for demons to enter our world. This reputation was cemented in pop culture, most famously by the 1973 film The Exorcist, where a young girl's demonic possession begins after she plays with a Ouija board. That movie did for Ouija boards what Jaws did for swimming in the ocean. Suddenly, this family board game stored next to Monopoly was a certified portal to hell. And the stories are endless. People claim to have contacted malevolent spirits, received terrifying prophecies, or been haunted for years after a single session. The most famous story involves a spirit named Zozo, a supposed demon who terrorizes users by spelling out his name and causing chaos. Of course, the scientific explanation is, you guessed it, the ideomotor effect strikes again, but this time it's a group activity. Multiple people have their hands on the planchette, and their combined unconscious muscle movements guided across the board. No one feels like they're pushing it, so it feels like an external force is in control. It's a fascinating psychological experiment that we've collectively decided is a supernatural phenomenon. Despite the warnings and the horror stories, or maybe because of them, the Ouija board remains an iconic part of the paranormal world. Serious paranormal investigators are often divided on its use. The board's impact on pop culture is undeniable. It's appeared in countless movies, TV shows, and books. It's a narrative shortcut for things are about to get spooky. The simple design, the alphabet, numbers, yes, no, and goodbye, is instantly recognizable and inherently creepy. It's a masterclass in branding, whether intentional or not. So, is the Ouija board a harmless game, a psychological tool, or a demonic switchboard? The answer probably depends on what you believe going into it. But there's no denying its place in the Paranormal Hall of Fame. Alright, let's jump from the 19th century straight into the 21st. We've talked about sticks, crystals, and board games. Now let's talk about drones, specifically thermal imaging drones. This is where ghost hunting gets its high-tech, CSI Spooky Town upgrade. We're moving beyond asking yes or no and into the realm of collecting visual thermal data from the air. It's a whole new ballgame. The basic technology isn't new. Thermal cameras, which detect heat signatures instead of visible light, have been a staple of paranormal investigation for years. The theory is that when a spirit manifests, it draws energy from its surroundings, creating a sudden localized cold spot. A thermal camera can visualize this as a human-shaped dark patch against a warmer background. It's one of the most compelling forms of visual evidence an investigator can capture. But strapping that camera to a drone? That changes everything. Suddenly, you're not limited to where you can physically walk. You can investigate areas that are unsafe or inaccessible. Think about a huge, dilapidated factory with crumbling upper floors, or the sprawling grounds of an old estate. A drone can cover that ground safely and efficiently, giving you a literal bird's-eye view of any thermal anomalies. This is cutting-edge stuff. We're talking about a tool that was developed for military surveillance, search and rescue, and industrial inspections now being used to hunt for ghosts. It's a pretty wild application of the technology. It allows investigators to map out an entire location, identifying potential hotspots before they even set foot inside. They can see if a cold spot is moving, or if there's a heat signature in a room that's supposed to be empty. Here's a recent example for you. A team investigating a historic and famously haunted battlefield used a thermal drone to scan the area at night. On their monitor, they saw a distinct human-shaped cold signature moving slowly across an open field where no living person was present. The shape moved in a way that didn't match any animal and then simply vanished. Now, could it be a camera glitch? An animal they couldn't identify? Absolutely. But it's also the kind of evidence that's incredibly difficult to debunk on the spot. The use of drones also introduces a new layer of control and data analysis. Of course, it's not foolproof. Thermal cameras can be tricked by reflections, drafts, or residual heat or cold from mundane sources. A drone's own propellers can create air currents that might affect readings. And let's be honest, flying a several $1,000 piece of equipment around a dark, spooky building is a recipe for an expensive crash. It requires a skilled pilot and a healthy dose of courage, but the potential is what's exciting. It represents the future of paranormal investigation, a future that integrates the latest technology in the search for answers to age-old questions. From a forked stick to a remote-controlled flying thermal robot, it's been a long journey. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of some of the strangest gadgets ever pointed at a ghost. From the ancient simplicity of dowsing rods and pendulums, relying on intuition and maybe a little subconscious suggestion, to the controversial infamy of the Ouija board, a game that became a gateway. And finally, landing in the modern era with thermal drones, proving that our quest for the unknown is always adapting the newest tools at our disposal. It's a fascinating evolution, isn't it? Each of these tools, in its own way, is an attempt to bridge the gap between our world and whatever comes next. They are instruments of hope, fear, curiosity, and sometimes just plain old showmanship. Whether you're a firm believer or a hardened skeptic, you have to admit there's a certain magic to the idea that we can reach out and get a response from the other side, whether it's with a crystal, a piece of cardboard, or a high-tech drone. The methods change, but the question remains the same. Is anybody out there? It shows that no matter how advanced we get, that fundamental human curiosity about what lies beyond the veil never really goes away. Now I want to hear from you. After looking at these different methods, from the classic to the cutting edge, I have to ask, if you were spending a night in a haunted house, which of these paranormal tools would you be brave enough to try? Would you trust the subtle swing of a pendulum, risk it all with the Ouija board, or go full tech nerd with a thermal drone? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you've had your own experiences with any of these, I'd love to read those stories. Thanks for watching and stay curious.